There we go. Good evening, everyone. Dennis, thank you very much. I don't like to get up on the stage unless Dennis plays me on. So, my name is Steve Procopi. I'm one of the managers here at the theater. I'm also one of the programmers. I'm also a local film critic. And if you're wondering if that is a conflict of interest, absolutely it is. No, it's not really. But I don't review things that open here unless I feel like it. So, anyway, let's bring Sean Baker back up. It says, I want to know. Here we go. Seen the film, I want to hear from you guys. Were you sufficiently blown away? Let me officially welcome you to the Music Box again.
Thank you, it's great to be here.
Back, I should say. So I have questions about the film, and then I have some of the bigger picture things you mentioned in your opening remarks. But can you just give us a quick update on Maya and Kiki, your lead actresses? Like, have you where are they right now? What are you doing?
Well, we remain very good friends with both of them. Kiki didn't pursue acting, even though I wish she did. She's wonderful. Maya did, and she's actually in a new film called High Tide that Strand is putting out this year. She continues to pursue acting. It's for me. One of the things that bothered me was that, Maya was the first trans woman to be nominated for a big acting award, and she won at the Gothams. Yet, the industry didn't embrace her the way I think they should have. But she's still pursuing acting, and she's doing great.
That's amazing.
What I hope is that we can develop a show for her. It won't be a Tangerine spin-off just simply because it's complicated. The IP is caught up, and owned by 3 different entities, which is very annoying. So I always tell young filmmakers, own your IP 100%. But we will do maybe something similar in the world of Tangerine. We're trying to create a series for her.
That's amazing. 10 years doesn't seem like that long in certain contexts, but for filmmakers, I guess, especially for you, it certainly has been quite a leap in 10 years. Give us a sense of where you were, both career. I mean, you had a modest hit with Starlet, put out by Music Box Films, by the way. Yeah. But just like, where were you in terms of how accepting people were the kinds of films you were making and how easy it was for you to get films? And I feel like it maybe gets progressively easier, hopefully, but what do you remember about that time?
And I guess it did to a certain degree, but it's been baby steps. So Starlet was actually my 4th feature, and that premiered at South by, and Music Box picked it up, and it did okay. It did actually, because Netflix never reveals their numbers, but we were told that we were one of the biggest rentals when they were still doing DVDs. So I know it had an audience, but I was in a place where I wanted to stay indie, but at the same time Starlet was the first film I didn't have to pay for on my own. So I was hoping the next film I would find a financier who would even give me more. That Starlet cost $250,000 to do. And normally that's the case. I was with an agent at the time, and I thought the doors were gonna open to allow me to make a bigger film the next time out, and nothing came my way. It was like really difficult, actually. I found myself in the same place where I was like, I'm not finding any opportunities here, and I'm not having money thrown at me, so what do I do? And that's when Mark and Jay Duplass reached out to me. I love them. They're wonderful. They basically, Mark and JD Plus. They're like sort of like indie rock stars.
Jay was just here like in May, so yeah.
Oh,
I think he's
yeah.
coming back
Okay.
actually pretty soon with his new film. So.
Oh,
yeah.
great. Yeah, Mark. He basically approached me and he said, you know, we're doing this thing. This 10 years ago, they did a few of these where they were giving filmmakers that they liked $100,000, and that's it. Like literally, not a dime more. And they said, if you can make a film, we trust you. We've seen you've made 4 other features. Here's $100,000. Do you have an idea? And I was like, well, I do have a little bit of an idea. There's this corner that I live near. I live about a half a mile from the corner of Santa Monica and Highland. And I would pass there all the time, and it was actually at the time it was sort of an unofficial red light district. It was known for transgender sex workers who worked the streets, but also male hustlers, and it was a very lively corner for a very long time. And I thought, why hasn't this ever been seen in film and TV? So I pitched them this idea that it wasn't even an idea yet, actually. It was just, I want to make a movie on that street corner, and at donut time, because donut time really was that location was very important for the community. It was a place where sex workers would go for a roof over their head, and they would be allowed to sit in there, and it was a hub in many ways. So I pitched that to Mark, and he goes, "Yep, here's $100K." But I was very frustrated. I was very frustrated that I felt like I was jumping back, because I had just made a $250,000 movie, and now I'm making a $100,000 movie. But you can only have those self-pity thoughts for so long. You have to move on. And so we just said, we're just going to take it and do it. And with a really wonderful tiny crew of around 6 to 8 people at the most. Darren Dean, Xi-Ching Zhou were the producers, as well as Chris Bergash, who I co-wrote the film with. Iron Strauss did sound, and Radium Chung did camera with me. And that was essentially our crew. We did have a PA or two, but that was it. And when we crunched the numbers, we realized there was no way to make a movie for $100,000, even on DSLRs at the time, because that would require a camera department that was more than one person, and just the equipment alone. And it just happened to be at that time that I think I found a Vimeo channel that was showing experiments shot on the iPhone. And it was also the same year that it went from the iPhone 5 to the 5S. So suddenly the phone was able to shoot on HD. And there happened to be third-party accessories and an app called Filmic Pro, which allowed you to do what you can all do on your phone now, but to manually control all the settings and record at 24 frames a second HD. And Moondog Labs, which was a company that invented this little anamorphic adapter, which fits over the lens of the iPhone, which allows you to shoot in true anamorphic, meaning you have to de-squeeze it, unsqueeze it when in post. And so all of those elements combined convinced me that we could make a film and it would look good and be presentable. Because I'm very much influenced by the Dogma 95 movement, which was very similar in many ways. They shot on mini DV, standard definition tape, and they made masterpieces. The Celebration, The Idiots. The Idiots I consider one of the best films ever made, and that originated on standard definition mini DV. So it was the Dogma 95 movement that really gave me permission to, when I failed on my first film, 4-letter words, it actually allowed me to sort of start over again with that movie I made called Takeout and shoot it on mini DV. So this felt like an extension of that. It felt like, I'm just doing Dogma 95 again. And I thought, as I said earlier in the intro, I thought we were going to be one of many films shot on the iPhone that year. But
I think that's one of the greatest misconceptions about the film is that you did it more as a gimmick, but it was out of necessity. Like you didn't have money, financially, you had to
Yeah.
it was this or not, or what happened, because you tend to want to shoot on film.
Yes.
And that was definitely not affordable.
So definitely not.
Yeah.
And we shot some tests. They all looked good. We presented them to the tests to Mark and Jay. They were like, "Yeah, go for it. It's punk rock. Let's do it." And but it also was something that we very quickly learned that it was helping us in many other ways. We were able to shoot clandestinely, and we were able to shoot with, even though we did have some blanket permits, we certainly didn't permit that bus. No. And every time we were crossing the street, yeah, it was a lot of stealing. We stole shots.
Did I heard that story with the bus driver called the cops?
Oh
'Cause I
my
thought it was a real
god!
fight.
Oh my god! Yeah, that big moment where they're slapping each other in the back, and it was going so well, and suddenly I just assumed we were at a bus stop. So I'm concentrated on the image. I'm behind the camera, and the bus isn't moving, and I'm like, wait, guys, hold on. Let's just hold until until the bus starts moving again. Hold. Why isn't the bus moving? And then just a bus rider, wasn't part of our team, turned and he goes, "It's because of you guys." And we're like, uh-oh. And then the bus driver goes over the loudspeaker, and the cops are coming. And we just ran off into the night. In every which direction, texting each other, just meet in 30 minutes on the corner here, until it dies down. And we put ourselves in those situations. But I think, again, that adds to the energy. We were actually capturing, I think, in many ways, the real energy that we were experiencing ourselves.
Do you think, you said before that people weren't throwing money at you in any amount at this point. Was it, you make these wonderful films about these largely marginalized communities, and was it because that people were nervous about giving money to a film that was going to have a subject that's going to be a little bit off the beaten path and maybe not easily marketable? Is that
perhaps?
I'm sure someone just told you, right? No, I have no idea. But did you get a sense that it was subject matter related?
I've kind of seen that as I look back in hindsight on almost all of my films. I think both subject matter and my choice of casting has kind of, I've shot myself in the foot constantly. No, because I've had the opportunities to cast bigger names, and usually it's that has held us back a little bit from, financiers are just simply not interested, and I pitch them this idea, they go, "Oh, wonderful, who are you casting?" "My neighbor." "Okay, then I'm gonna lose my money." "No, I'm not giving you my money." No, but and so even now, quite honestly, Enora was extremely tight. Enora was about as tight as you can get. We made more money off of Red Rocket because Red Rocket was actually made for less money than Enora, so there was a bigger profit margin. So yeah, even now, hopefully after the Oscars now, in the Palme d'Or, hopefully I can say, yeah, I want to cast my neighbor, deal with it.
It's always been important to you to mix up your actors with first-time actors. Why is that critical to you? Why is getting that voice in there important?
Well, I love seeing fresh faces on the big screen, and I always look to Spike Lee, who would always mix it up. He would actually, cast A-list stars, but he would always have supporting that you never saw before, and he would introduce incredible actors into the industry, from Samuel Jackson to Halle Berry. He would bring people that we never saw before, and I always appreciated that, because as a film goer, you want your suspension of disbelief to go away as fast as possible. When you're watching a film, you want to buy into it as fast as possible. At least I do, and that's easier for me when I don't recognize this A-lister on the big screen. I don't mean to, you know, I do love A-listers, and I would, in a second, I would love to work with Jennifer Lawrence and DiCaprio. I would love that. That would be incredible. But it's when often I'm sort of developing a character sometimes with an actor, or sometimes with an actor in mind, and it really is who's best for that role, not like who will sell my film the best.
You mentioned the Oscars before, and obviously, and if you talked about some of this earlier today, there was, for those of you who were at the presentation this morning, and if we covered some of the same ground, deal with it. Because half this audience hasn't heard that. So, but anyway, you made this very impassioned speech, both for just going to see the movie at a movie theater, especially independently run theaters. And I know, like, everyone that I work with had their heart jump out of their chest when you did that. It's like, oh, he's talking about us. There we are. Somebody's actually talking about us. And you also mentioned that your mother introduced you to the cinema first. Do you remember what it was and what your how did it impact you? Do you remember what was going on?
Yeah, it actually wasn't in a theater, it was in a library.
Oh,
actually.
wow.
They were showing, from what I remember, I was 5 years old. It was in Millburn, New Jersey. They were showing clips, or like the highlight reel from the Universal monster movies. So they showed like Dracula rising from the grave, the mummy getting stabbed with that spear thing, and then Frankenstein. And Frankenstein, they showed the burning windmill sequence from 1931's James Whale's Frankenstein, and that just did it for me. I remember that image of seeing him through the internal mechanism of that windmill, the Boris Karloff's face, and just saying. And the next morning, I told my mom I want to make movies, you know. But films were. Going to the theater was a big thing growing up. I actually worked at a movie theater when I managed and did projection at 17 because nobody else was doing it, so they gave me the role. It was in Manville, New Jersey. It was a single screen theater that's unfortunately no longer there. But I applied for a job one summer of my junior year in high school. And I was supposed to just be like the ticket boy. Within like 3 days, they were like, we need a projectionist. And they showed me, it was the old platter system, which I hear is very bad for prints. I never knew that. And then within like 3 more days, they were like, and now we need you to manage the theater. So it was wild. It was quite a learning experience, but obviously one that was very impactful. And I should mention that during the day, they were showing Disney films, and at night, they were showing art house films. So it was an art house theater.
And single screen, yeah. I mean, that would. Even the library technically indie theater. Anyway, no, but first I'm going to call every time I see somebody out front checking tickets. They are now the ticket boy. It's just because you called. I don't know what it's called, but that's what it's called now. So the role of repertory programming at independently run theaters was very important to you from all the way back to when you started working there.
Well, there wasn't any of that in New Jersey, and so it was actually when I went to NYU. I moved into Manhattan, and I lived there for the next 15 years. And there you're surrounded with repertory. And I remember, I think I was there at the last year that the Bleecker Street Cinema was still there, but I was also always going to Anthology Film Archives. I was going to the Waverly.
St. Mark's Place, did you use?
Yeah.
I lived there in the early 90s, and I lived in the Village, so I was hitting all those spots, yeah, for sure.
So that was like my only way to see, more than just what the foreign Oscar entry was. I was seeing like the Palme d'Ors, I was seeing older films, I went to NYU thinking I was going to be making like the next RoboCop or Die Hard. I left NYU wanting to be the next Jarmusch or Spike Lee. So,
Also in your Oscar speech, you made another impassioned plea to filmmakers to make films that would play in theaters, to like make that be the point. And I'm sure you have been tempted or by different streaming services to do something for them, but you obviously insist on the theatrical. Tell me about how, because I feel like younger filmmakers, they just take what they can get because they're getting to make the movie they want to make,
yeah,
presumably. And but how do they? At what point can they actually start like pushing back and saying, "Well, can we get some?" I mean, I know it's
I don't
hard.
know. I guess it's up to every individual, and everyone has their own route and their own prerogative.
But I guess I'm wondering how you have managed to stay out of that so far.
I think it's just because I've put my foot down about it, and and again, my films are not exactly, I guess the risks aren't as great as, I'm still, Nora is my biggest budget film, and that is just under 7 million. So compared to what, other films are being made for these days, I mean, it's kind of pennies. So I think I'm allowed to ask for more, and I'm allowed because the actual financial risk might not be as great. But I would say that I just say I'm a feature filmmaker, and I make films first and foremost for theaters like this and to be seen by audiences. Home entertainment is an afterthought for me. And I know that's not for everybody. I have plenty of peers who are like, no, I actually do want to work in the series space from now on. They find more freedom there. They find that the longer running lengths are better for them in terms of how the stories they want to tell. But for me, no. I differentiate. I say, there's a feature film and then there's television, and I'm working in this world. And telling my stories in a running time between 90 minutes and 2.5 hours. That's how I want to tell my stories. And even if I'm stuck shooting a film on the iPhone, I still want it to be projected on a big screen like this. So it's just about putting your foot down, actually. Yeah. And I know as you get more success and as you move further on in your career, you can keep adding on the caveats and demands, and that's what we do. I mean, that's essentially what we do. We have, like, for the next film, I'm asking for even a greater theatrical window, because I think that is what is going to help. The theatrical window is what's going to keep theaters alive. And I think that we have to really fight for it. And that is true. And nobody's really going to fight for it besides that the filmmaker. The filmmaker is going to have to say, I want 90 days, no less than 90 days.
When you're talking about something like a theatrical release, do you I mean, as much as you would love all your films to play in all the independently run theaters, are you also including chains and multiplexes, and that's all part of it? I mean, getting someone in a theater is getting them into a theater.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts about multiplexes at this point? Or?
No, not at all. And as we know, I do have thoughts.
Some of these people do.
I mean, I listen. It's all part of the ecosystem. It's all part of it. We have to remember that it's as Judy Kim from Gardena told me earlier today. AMC's we have to support the AMC's and the Regals because they're very much a part of this industry, and they're keeping theatrical alive. And so, no, I would like to, as I get a little more, say in how my films are released, I would like to say, no, let's cater to the independently owned theaters first and foremost, especially with the types of movies I'm making. But I in no way poo-poo the chains. No, and I'm an AMC Stubs member. Of course I am. How can I not be? Also Regal and Hawkins. And during COVID, I was like, I'm going to support them all.
So this is the essay question. How do we get people to prioritize the theater, going to see things in theaters? Like, how do we get the average person who goes maybe to 1 or 2 movies a month, and that might even be a lot for some people, to go to make sure it's in the theater? Like, how do they, beyond just the biggest movies available to them, with the biggest stars in them?
Yeah, well, that's why I was saying it's up to all of us. You know, it's up to us as individual audience members to perhaps, hey, if your friends or your family members haven't been out to the theater in a while, bring them out, remind them, because everybody, unfortunately, we all went, you know, COVID, and then right with the advent of streaming, right on the tail of COVID, it was like people forgot, literally forgot. You know, I keep saying that, you know, my parents, unfortunately, they've been to the theater one time. This is, you know how many people, you know, Thanksgiving and Christmas, you fight over politics. I'm fighting over, why haven't you seen one of my films in the theater? My mom has seen one film in the theater since COVID, and it's not one of mine. It's Barbie. But then you have to say, hey, it's films like Barbie that are really keeping the industry alive. So, but yeah, it's reminding people again that this is a wonderful experience. That's on an audience level. And then filmmakers, again, they have to put their foot down about asking for certain things, about how their films are exhibited. And then with distributors, there are so many new ways of bringing people back in. And something that we just did personally, you know, Samantha Kwan, my wonderful wife and fellow producer. If anyone received those little film strips tonight, the Tangerine film strips, that was Sam and I put those together. You know, just literally cutting 5 frames out of a print of Tangerine and slipping those into the envelopes. But stuff like that, things that will entice audiences, giving them something a little bit more that they will not get at home, they will not get on streaming, something that will be, you know, yeah. I think
Thus the recent popularity of popcorn buckets. Like these
yeah, exactly.
And it's crazy to me that a film like Anora basically has to get nominated for everything and win everything for people to even think about seeing it coming out and seeing it in a theater. Like, it has to just completely sweep them, like, okay, what's going on here? Now I'll go check it out. But that has to be, I mean, it was lovely that it made as much money as it did, but at the same time, it's got to be, there's still this whole huge section of the world that's just like, what is this movie again? Like, that's winning all the awards?
I think that, I don't know, maybe that's been sort of the state of these sort of movies forever in a way. You know, this is certainly, Anora is certainly not, you know, your popcorn blockbuster type of movie that you can bring your family to. Actually, I tell, please don't go with your family. Don't go with any family members. Do not make Anora a date movie. Please do not do that. And yeah, so I'm actually, but I have to say that working with Neon was an incredible experience because they believe in the theatrical experience, and we were working hand in hand, and they kept surprising me with the ways that they wanted to, what they wanted to do to bring audiences out. The amount of merch, the amount of events, it was really incredible to work with them. And they're one of those distributors that's incredibly friendly to theaters and the theater going experience as a whole.
And speaking of that, I mean, in addition to just the technical reasons why it's good to see films in theaters, talk about your relationship to just watching something with other people, that communal experience. Sure. Why is that important still?
Well, you know, for me, I don't know how you can't be affected by, if you're watching a film that will move you in some way, whether it emotionally moves you or perhaps excites you. It's a more powerful experience to know that you're in a room with fellow human beings who are feeling the same thing. It's like the energy is there. Now, sometimes it can be vocal. Sometimes it can just be, it can be a moment in which sometimes the silence of being in a theater with 400 people who aren't saying a peep because they're so into this film, that's powerful unto itself. But then also, I'm also all down for what happened with Minecraft. I think that was, when I heard, I don't know anything about that game, okay? So for me, it was quite a surreal movie, if you think about it. It was a weird movie. It was like humans making cubes, and I was like, this is trippy. But besides that, I heard that Gen Zers were coming out, and it was almost becoming a Rocky Horror sort of thing. And as soon as I heard that, I said to Sam, I'm like, we're going. And I think it was like 2.5 weeks into the release, and we saw it at the Grove AMC in LA on a weeknight with 3/4 filled, and the audience was wild. They were going crazy, and they were screaming, and this and that. And some people would have an issue with that, but I didn't. I loved it. It was for me, I got to experience the tail end of 42nd Street, because when I went to NYU, it was 89, so there were still a few theaters there. It was the 42nd Street experience again for me. It was like the audience, I was okay with the audience being loud and rowdy, and for that type of movie, I think it works. So I think both the respectful audiences who understand etiquette is one thing, and I love that, and I also love the audiences that are totally out of hand, and as long as they're there and enjoying themselves and enjoying the experience, that's what counts.
The last thing I want to ask you is, I read an interview with you, I think it was a fairly recent one, where you said you felt like a weird spokesperson for this cause because you don't think you make movies that are going to bring in like a bazillion people to theaters. But do you still feel that way, or do you see how you're in a position now?
Yeah.
You can't carry all your awards with two hands at this point. You're in a position now where you maybe could be. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, of course, because I have to be realistic too. As I just said, I actually don't think Anora is a film for a date night. I truly feel that way. It would be a terrible date. It would be a terrible date. And what's going to keep theaters alive, and what's going to keep cinema alive is the popcorn fare. It's the blockbusters. So sometimes, yes, I do feel a little bit like a hypocrite. I'm not making films that are actually, I could, if I wanted to, I think I could make more commercial movies just make more commercial choices. Again, like my casting and all. So yes, so that is something I'm dealing with. I'm talking to a therapist tomorrow morning. I don't know what else to say, but I hope to now, with the success of Anora, it might not be my personal filmography, meaning the stuff I direct, but I would like to produce. Sam and I would like to produce films that we develop and hopefully lean into stuff that's more commercial. And
it's you and Tom Cruise speaking the loudest on this subject, so you're in good company at least. Sean, thank you so much for coming out and talking. Thank you guys for sticking around.
Thank you very much.